PhinManiacs, Phincast, Jason Sarney here, and I have a really special guest. I have a voice that you know, whether it's hearing him, whether it's seeing him, whether it's listening to any aspect of Dolphin coverage. Ron Canniff, welcome, my friend. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. First time on the show.
No problem, no problem. We'll be nice and easy. No hardballs here. We're in friendly waters, I promise you that. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk quarterback, which is something that we haven't done really ever as Dolphin fans.
No. I barely thought about it.
Right?
Yeah, I barely thought about it.
I mean, who thinks about quarterbacks when you're thinking about Miami? But anyway, there is a kind of choose your own adventure coming up if you're a Miami Dolphin GM, coach, scout, fan, who whatever you want to say. It's going to be the most exciting draft, I think, in recent memory, regardless of what happens. And I just want to hear your kind of thought process philosophically on how you look at a quarterback, philosophically on what the Dolphins should do overall with 3 picks. I mean, it's not a situation like a San Diego where, I'm sorry, LA, I can't. It's like a Freudian slip, the Chargers. They have to hit. They got 1 pick. They have a thin draft in terms of it's normal, a normal standard draft, and the Dolphins have double it. So I think it's a different situation. What are your thoughts overall?
The Dolphins can take a little bit more risk for a variety of reasons. Number one, yes, like you said, they have a lot more picks. But I just think that they're in a better situation that if they drafted a quarterback and it didn't work, I just don't think it's the end of the this group of guys, this coaching staff, this GM, et cetera. It could be. I mean, the GM's been with the team for a while, but he hasn't been officially the GM but for a few years. I think that with considering what happened last year, even though it was only 5 wins, it was still 5 out of the last 9 on a team that most people had pegged to go 0-16, 1-15, etc. We beat 2 playoff teams in those last 5 games as well. Good road victory against New England when it mattered. First road victory against New England since the Wildcat game in 2008. So, so there was a lot of positives. He took a defense of several no names. I won't say just no names, but several no names, and made it start to look like what we would hope it would look like. And now they've added obviously a lot of talent and free agency there, a ton of talent. I think personally they're going to still add some more talent in this draft. I don't personally believe they're going to draft a quarterback and 4 linemen. I know that's what everybody keeps mocking and hoping and thinking. I don't think that's going to be the strategy. Yes, they'll draft some linemen. They kind of have to, but I believe they'll also look for some spots at safety, at defensive tackle, maybe an actual nose guard, et cetera, or nose tackle. I believe they can take more risk at quarterback, though. I especially when it comes to Tua and his injury risk. Because a lot of quarterbacks are injured in this league, and they continue to get contracts. They continue to play Roethlisberger, Wentz, Rodgers, etc. I mean, the only quarterbacks that seem to really stay healthy are maybe Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. Those guys just seem to stay eternally healthy. And, Wilson and Tom Brady did have obviously the one injury, the one season, and Wilson will probably eventually get his, I imagine. Just like Marino went for a really long time with absolutely never missed a game, and then he got his. It happens. I understand that people think Tua is risky, but I'd rather chase what I believe to be superior talent with the risk of injury versus just let me just settle for mediocrity because I'm scared. I don't think the Dolphins need to draft scared. And because of that, I think they can take the shot with Tua where perhaps, like you said, the Chargers perhaps cannot take that shot. Maybe the Chargers don't even get quarterback. I mean, it's possible. If they really, really need a player that now I don't think that's what they're going to do, but I'm just saying there's a chance if they really need a player that helps them now. Does drafting Herbert or drafting Tua definitely doesn't help him now? He's got to sit a year. Does drafting Herbert help them now? Putting Herbert out there over Tyrod Taylor even? I don't know. I still think that Cam Newton would be a Charger if it wasn't for the COVID-19 and them not being able to really check him out, have their doctors check him out, work him out, etc. I personally believe that they wouldn't even be in the conversation. We wouldn't be so nervous about them right now. I think they would have decided to go with Cam Newton and Tyrod Taylor this year and go in a different direction in this draft in regards to their first round pick. But that doesn't mean that since they don't have Cam, they may not take a shot. I think Dolphins are in a good spot to be able to take a chance on Tua. I admit the injury risk. I get that, but for me, I believe it's worth it.
Everything you said there is really kind of dead on what I'm thinking. And I know, if we want to rely on what 160 or less characters tells people on Twitter, which I always say is tough contextually to read it and to understand what words are behind it. So when I say anything about Tua, it's not anti. I'm assessing risk as best I can as an outsider when I'm looking at an injury risk or a experience risk or, different levels of worry. And now if the draft goes normal, Tua is there at 5, he's taken. I'm fine. I want to see what happens next. Do they draft or move up or create a way to make sure they get the best right tackle in maybe his buddy Jedrick Wills? Because if that's the plan, if they get Tua, I feel like there's are you an MCU guy? Are you a Marvel fan? There's
yes.
like a reality. There's like a bridge reality for Tua.
Yes.
Like, boom, take that. Boom, there's the reality stone for Tua. But if Tua gets drafted, snap, we're not dead. We have the love trail, And I just think that that's what they do. I think they're mocking right now. Not us, the Dolphins, because they're planning. Everyone saw, when I say everyone, the Dolphin community, they put it all over the place. A lot of blogs, a lot of writers had the fun teleconference session with Chris Greer. He didn't tip his hand, but he said things that he didn't tip his hand at all, which is why I love him. Is because, you're looking at everything he says, you're writing it down, you're re-listening, you're rewatching, you're looking at his facial tics. I'm literally looking at him like a poker game. That's how I've equated this whole entire thing with him as basically a chip leader bully. Not a bad way. Who wouldn't go in there? You're walking in with your chest high with the most picks in the first round, the most money, the most capital to just say, all right, anyone make your move. And here's my thing. If somebody makes a move to the Lions, to the Giants, to the Tigers or Bears or whatever, I'm kidding. But if anybody is making a move to anybody, they are smart to call up Miami and say, here's the move. Not telling you who, but here's what it costs. You just throw in a 7th sweetener or a 5th sweetener and they're yours. And then the Dolphins and Chris Greer could pull what they pulled with Melvin Gordon, walk away. Too much? Thanks anyway. And that's what Greer is doing. If he wants to say, if he wants to shuffle his chips, do his little fun stuff and say, yeah, I'll do it. He will. But if he doesn't, he's got that other branch reality that he's got completely figured out. So to me, I am not going to exacerbatingly go crazy or absolutely go one way or the other when the quarterback is taken whenever, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th, whatever. I want to see what happens after. And the first day can be literally one of the greatest days in Dolphin history without a statistic at all. It could be quarterback, lineman, and as you said, give me a safety because you can get another tackle in the 2nd round. But can you get a Delpit or an Xavier McKinney or a Winfield or, one of the top tier 3 or 4?
Yeah, maybe Winfield. You probably could get Winfield at the top of the 2nd round, maybe. It just depends, really. I know there's been some chatter just as I woke up this morning on Twitter. I saw a lot of chatter about trade for Jamal Adams over at the Jets. Not just necessarily us, but somebody. But he doesn't seem to be a fit for our defense. He's a bit limited, and Greer's going to want a guy that can do a lot of things. So I don't believe that would happen. But somebody else may make that trade, which if they were a team in hunt for a safety, that's one less team that might decide to pick one of those safeties. We really need to come away from this draft with a startable safety. I'd say defensive-wise, if we only did one thing, which I think we're going to do more, because Flores is a defensive-minded guy, and this defense is getting close to kind of maybe being formed in his vision player-wise. Not quite there. But I believe that they have to come away with a startable safety from this draft, or they're in trouble. I'm not saying trouble, or they're going to be really hurting this season at that spot. The roster is extremely thin, or we're going to have to go out and find one of these 1-2 year vets to fill the spot, which so far this team has completely resisted making those types of moves. Since Flores came, they have not shown interest in going down the Adam Gase route of let me fill my roster with a bunch of 1-2 year old veterans to fill off these roster spots. They seem to not want to do that. Now, will they not do that at all anywhere, period? Well, I doubt it. I'm sure in a few spots, safety might end up having to be one of those spots if they don't come away with at least one, maybe two safeties in this draft. But they have to have one startable safety, a guy that you could throw out there and get some starts out of starts or a lot of work, especially with the way Flores runs his defense, a lot of rotation in and out. And it isn't necessarily quote unquote starter, but at least have a safety, a good, strong safety that you could throw out there when you start putting out 5 and 6 man defensive backs and whatnot. So I think it's a very important spot. I don't believe it's being overlooked by Dolphins fans. I just think it's being overwhelmed by all the quarterback talk. But something I've been focusing on, and as we've been in the Dolphins Brawl as well, and we've been doing the mocks, it's like we can't leave any draft without a first or second round safety. We haven't done it yet, and I just don't think the Dolphins will do it. I think they will put a premium on it.
I 100% agree, and this goes into that. Listen, I guess I'll keep on calling it this branch reality, where if things fall a certain way, and again, this is a draft board that's going to materialize as other teams pick. So we can't guarantee what team A, B, C, D, and E does before team F, So it's almost a situation where, oh my God, here's the wide receiver one. Let there be a wide receiver run in between 19 and 25,
Oh, there could be. I mean, there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. This is one of the best heavy wide receiver drafts we've seen in a long time, and it's not just first. It's not just first round. I mean, you start getting in the 4th and 5th round. There are still some decent wide receiver talent. Miami they have enough picks to even make the kind of luxury pick 3rd day and grab a wide receiver, even though everybody thinks, oh, they don't really need it. Well, you don't need it now, but you might need it next year. Grant's hurt a lot. Wilson may not be here. Hearns is just a guy, in my opinion. So yes, for 2020, do you necessarily need it as it sits right now? No. But do you need to draft a guy maybe 3rd day, stash him on the practice squad, and start developing him for the coming future? Man, that's how the Patriots became the Patriots. They're always doing that. They're not sitting there. Yes, they draft at need sometime. Every team has need they have to draft for. I don't care how good you are. But they don't spend 10 picks just drafting need. And anytime the Patriots have been in, and I've said this before, anytime the Patriots are in a situation where they are having to have a super needy pick, you're like, oh no, we just have so many needs, we got to just draft need. Whenever they get in that situation, they're not as good usually. And their team maybe, takes a slide for them is 12-4 and they don't win the Super Bowl, but they take a little bit more of a slide like you saw last year. Mm-hmm. They just weren't able to fill needs, and they didn't have those guys from previous drafts that tied in at wide receiver. It just didn't work out, whether they drafted guys and they just didn't, come to be, or they just didn't draft them to begin with. They didn't have those developmental guys at some key spots for them, and they suffered for it. So I'm all about them Dolphins trying to maybe even look at wide receiver, but not in the first round. That's just we have too many. We're not. We just have too many needs. We can't do that.
You use the right word, Ron, and I think words. How novel. Words are extremely important, and the word that you used was luxury. You know what? Let's equate a team to a house. You know why I'm equating a team to a house? Let's equate it to a skyscraper. Someone who owns the Dolphins knows a little bit about building. If you're going to need a luxury in a building, you know what? The art, the couch, the motif, that's luxury. But there's a leaky roof. The infrastructure is crap. Let's take care of that first. Let's solidify it. Oh, you know what? There's more money coming in because people are now more confident of buying office space or getting now let's get the luxury. That's the draft. So we don't need an alpha receiver. When I say alpha receiver, an X or a Z, diva receiver. And when I say that, I'm not saying Devontae Parker is a diva. I'm not saying Preston Williams is a diva, but I'm saying they're alpha-minded receivers where, 100 targets a year. And you know what? Start looking where the targets are going. Where's the slot guy? You mentioned Jakeem Grant. the health aspect. But he's not necessarily a guy who's a slot receiver. He's a gimmick.
Right now, we're using Hearns as our slot receiver. I mean, again, he's just a guy. But I think he'll still do for this year, and we could look on third day to draft a wide receiver. But that's not first day. However, going back to there's a lot of wide receiver talent, and I know that a lot of teams. I mean, come on, the Raiders. You think they don't want to come away without a wide receiver? I believe the Jets. I know everybody are talking about tackle, but I think the Jets and Adam Gase are really going to be clamoring. They're going to hate at number 11. I believe that's where they draft. They're going to hate at number 11 to pass up what could be staring at them. Maybe even the best wide receiver in this draft. Maybe Jerry Jeudy's sitting there, or his buddy Ruggs. You know, and I don't see Ruggs getting past the Raiders, so I believe I believe you'll see some, and then CeeDee Lamb. So I believe you'll see wide receivers go between 5 and 18, which helps push some better talent like McKinney to us, or maybe that offensive tackle we need, etc. That's going to help. If that doesn't happen, we might be in trouble. But I think the offensive tackle piece is going to be a struggle at 18. If they want one of the top 4, I still think they're going to have to move up a little. Except for, I know we got the whole the Tunsil Bong situation going on right now. Not that it was a bong with Mekhi Becton. I saw that news break, I guess, last night. I know. And he never tested. He never tested positive in college, but apparently there was an issue, I guess, at the combine. I wasn't fully understanding. Did he test positive at the combine?
Look, I read, but there's some things I skim because there's some things that just make me so annoyed that it's ridiculous. Because if I'm a GM, I look at what happened with a couple of years ago with the Tunsil situation. How's that worked out? When I say how's that worked out, swimmingly.
It's worked out pretty good for us. Yeah, because he was a pretty decent, left tackle, probably better than decent left tackle for us for a few years. And now look at all the, and that was a 1 in 100 shot that a team was giving us all that. But hey, we got it.
It's Hanukkah. It's unopened Hanukkah nights, you know, and they're huge gifts. I want to go back to the receiver because I read a lot. Listen, there's a lot of people on Twitter that I really respect opinions, but sometimes I get a little curious. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase thought process. Deepest class in the wide receivers ever. Why would a team trade up? Well, you know what? What if a team like X has 2 terrific receivers, but they need the slot guy? Here's your slot guy, right? Not necessarily your outside X or Z like a CeeDee Lamb. The Dolphins need a Hamler, a Van Jefferson. Who else do I love? Here's a guy that I really love. Day 3 is James Prochet. So the Dolphins would make out tremendously if they get a slot receiver. Give us the next Jarvis Landry to pair with your Devontae.
I don't like that name.
I'm sorry. Give us an OJ McDuffie.
There you go.
My McDuffie. I'll tell you what. And I love you, OJ. You know I do. Give me. You want the best in the world? How about a KJ from Penn State? How about OJ Light? I say light because McDuffie was kind of a bigger body.
So where are you thinking that the Dolphins would target that slot wide receiver in this draft?
They're going to miss him if they're going to miss the top couple if they target a slot receiver after the first day. But
I don't see them going to it.
I don't see them going in the first day. But then again, I see what happens if the first 6 receivers off the board and, Laviska falls, Mims falls, Higgins falls. And then the second round is those guys, the alphas. And then maybe if there's a 36, 37, 38 right before the Dolphins 39 pick, maybe that's when you move up the 4th round and 2/5 or whatever or something. That's when you start playing the board with the trades. Because I don't need a slot receiver in the 30s, but if a guy falls who I love or they love, then
they may make a move if a guy at any position falls, just about any position falls where they feel like it's worth the value. They have the value there and it helps their team. I agree. I don't think the Dolphins will just only draft tackles, guards, safety, and a quarterback. And then the rest is just, okay, let's have fun. Let's do that first. No, they're going to take their opportunities here and there. We don't know what their board looks like, period. And they're not going to tell anybody, you know. And if you think you have sources, and I don't say you, I mean
know exactly
specifically people. If you think you have sources, you're not. Those aren't sources. You're part of the game, and you're part of the smokescreen. Just FYI, you're part of the smokescreen. If anyone from the Miami organization is telling you anything, you are part of the smokescreen. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Write your articles. Enjoy it. You're part of the smokescreen. No team, not just the Dolphins, are telling anybody what they're doing at any spot, not even the Bengals at number 1. They're not going to do it. Why? Because somebody might offer them a king's ransom for that. No one's doing it. Anybody that's telling you anything, it's done purposely. It's done strategically, and you're part of it. Enjoy. So I say that every year. I've said that for 5 straight seasons on Twitter, and for 5 straight seasons I'm right. I'll say it another 25, and for another 25 I'll be right. It's just how it is. But we don't know what their board looks like, so there's always going to be surprises of players they targeted, surprises of positions they targeted, surprises of when they targeted a certain position at a certain time in the draft. There will be surprises, not just from the Dolphins, but from all teams. Now, I don't focus on the other teams as much, so maybe they won't be the other teams. It won't be surprises, but for sure there will be surprises in this draft. The Dolphins will throw in a draft, pick or two that you're like, huh? Why did they draft that spot? I thought we were good there. Why did they draft that linebacker so high? How did they draft another corner? Why did they grab that wide receiver in the end of the second round? Like this kind of thing is bound to happen. It will happen. It always does.
100%. And this goes back to, I'm playing the same themes here, and I'm going to go back to the poker hand reference, because you know what? If you have a pair of pocket aces in Texas Hold'em, you have a great hand, and you're going to play that hand through and through, and you're going to be confident about it. But sometimes you go in with the 2-6, and that's kind of when you throw in more chips just because you have them, if you're the chip leader. And you know what? Like you said, we don't need a defensive tackle in the middle, like a nose tackle, but there's this guy.
I think we do need a nose tackle. I think it's the one position on the D-line, because neither Wilkins nor Godchow are actually can't move me on a run up the middle type guy.
So you would be okay. So let's say that an absolute curveball is thrown. Do you go Derek Brown 5 and the world ends? I think the world doesn't end with that pick. I think it's a different world.
I think the funny part about that position, and we talked about this again on Dolphins Brawl, was we don't have anybody on this roster right now that fits it. So they could draft a guy late, like super late, and and then that guy will still get a lot of play.
I mean, you're absolutely right. If you want to talk about guys, look, Marlon Davidson's a beast, and the Dolphins were all over the Auburn Pro Day. So he's a guy who, 18, trade back, the 18th getting to the 20s again. You mentioned there are guys, Raekwon Davis like that. So we don't know. Flores is going to get guys Greer's going to get guys who Flores wants to help that defense. And the defense is going to basically make life easier for everybody, much like if you get offensive line talent, first day, second day, whatever, it's going to make life easier for quarterbacks. So everything comes with that choose your own adventure plan. So yeah, I'm not going to hate any pick of major or minor need. The luxury picks early. If they go Jerry Jeudy, if they trade up for one of these guys, I mean, the great players, I'd love the guy as a player, but I'd question what the mindset is,
Yeah, like I said, I think that's beyond luxury. That's okay. We're going to draft Jerry Jeudy, and we're going to ignore a huge hole somewhere else, so at safety or tackle. Because with the strategy they employed during free agency, they left this obviously gaping hole in the offensive line, specifically at tackle. So they push themselves and force themselves into we have to have at least one starting tackle somehow, some way. Because of that, they may have forced themselves even into a trade up, depending on how they value these guys. Some people say there's 4. Some people say there's 5 when you throw in Jones. Some people like Austin Jackson. Some people don't. Some people like, what is it? Is it Ezra Cleveland? Do I have that name right? Some don't. And there's a few other guys that people like and value. But they have to have a tackle. They have to have a safety. And I believe they really need to come away with a quarterback of the future from this draft. I think they have the opportunity at least to do so. And the rest, let's see what happens.
Exactly right. I mean, to me, the draft starts, like the old saying in like NBA playoffs, like the series doesn't start until the road team wins or something like that. It's, to me, the draft doesn't start until either a trade is made that skews it, or the Dolphins get their quarterback. Great, the dust settles, and to me, now it's lock and load time. I mean, seriously, quarterback's one thing. I don't want to see the quarterback this year, frankly. Like, I'd be the happiest guy in the world if it's just you want to see him, throw it into the wind on week 17 if it's a meaningless game, just to see him, like they did with Mahomes in his rookie year. And then you give him the reins after Fitzpatrick tried admirably and hopefully eloquently to have a terrific season, or if it's Rosen, whomever. But I like, you said two names in the second round that could be second rounders, Josh Jones, Austin Jackson. At the same token, they could fly up. We don't necessarily want a tackle run because we want those tackles. We want,
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know. Again, we're mocking and we're not the teams, and you never know. But it's like these first 4 picks, a lot of times they're all gone by 10, and you hadn't gotten to the Jets yet. I mean, I don't know. You draft a QB at 5, which I guarantee almost they're going to draft a QB at 5 or jump up to 3 and draft a QB, one or the other. I mean, waiting to 18, you may not even get Jones. So it really depends on how they value the rest of those tackles. What that looks like. And then, of course, you got Cesar Ruiz, the top-graded interior. Yeah, the top-graded, at least for us, the top graded interior lineman. But I don't know. Hey, man, what do we got? 5 days as we sit here and record?
Yeah, we're recording Saturday. What's today? Saturday? What year is it? What month are we in?
It's April. We woke up again, and today it was still April, but it's just April.
The draft is my sundial. You know what I mean? It's like, what day?
Almost there.
5 days away from the draft. Like,
that's 5 days away from the draft. You got it.
I love it. And afterwards, I have to get back to real life, which is not fun. But I'm kidding. But like, honestly, there's so many things the Dolphins could do. Just looking at this, mock draft, kind of board here, anything could happen. But the scary thing is, and this is why the Dolphins almost have to, if they really, really, really have a number one guy, quarterback, you never know, quarterback. And if you go further, just sorry to cut you off a little, Ron, here, you got the Raiders here, but the team to look at if we're talking trade strategy, and I want this to be like the last kind of segment here. Basically the trade market. I look at a surprise team like the Jaguars. They got a lot of capital. They got Yannick Ngakoue just dangling that they might have to throw in to move back, down, up, whatever, draft, trade a player. Who knows if they're talking to Miami? Who knows? Maybe they have an offensive tackle that they want to get in whatever, and they want to trade the fifth. Maybe Yannick Ngakoue could be a Dolphin. Maybe he could be a Giant. Maybe he could be a Lion. Who knows?
Right. Of course, one thing we've known, and everybody reminds me of this, and I don't like to always use history, but I guess you have to, is that Gettleman from the Giants has never moved down out of that. He just doesn't do it. That doesn't mean he won't hear. I mean, there's so many. There could be so much value out of that pick.
He wasn't going to take Jones, right? I mean, no one thought the Jones was going to go.
Yeah, if you could. I mean, so I don't ever like to rely on people. Just rely on certain things that aren't factual. They rely on there's no way Cincinnati's doing anything but drafting Burrow. Well, likely, but I just can't rely on it. There's no way the Redskins are moving out of that pick and not drafting Chase Young. I don't know. Then if everybody considers Detroit the wild card, I think they do. And then there's no way the Giants will move down. They've never done it before. So, I mean, they moved down 2 spots maybe with the Chargers that might want to jump ahead of Miami on a quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So,
maybe look, I hate, and I tweeted this like 4 days ago, whatever. I mean, look, when you say no chance, when you say 100%, guarantee, bust, Hall of Famer, do you realize the stupidity of what you're setting yourself up for? No chance ever.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
stupid.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, what if
I don't even
something
like
happens?
to say that about Herbert or I mean, there's a lot of these quarterbacks like Eason that it's being completely ignored. Hurts is
Oh,
being
he's a
completely
bust.
ignored.
Forget about it.
Fromm
And
is
who's
being
saying that?
completely ignored. I mean, we see quarterbacks all the time go second, third round, and within a year or two, we're like, well, we missed that. You know, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson. I mean, it happens almost every year. So with as many quarterbacks in this draft, it's almost guaranteed that there's a lower round or a lower graded quarterback somewhere that we're missing the mark on. And I mean, as Dolphins fans, we could all be missing the mark on Herbert. It's possible. It's possible.
6, 7 quarterbacks that theoretically could be guys that help teams that are built correctly move on in the playoffs. Now,
That's a lot, right? I mean, that's the most I recall seeing for a while. I understand we had
who we're talking about.
We had 4 to 5, you know, with when you know what was it? The guy from Cleveland. Why does his name escape my? Why does his name escape my mind? The
current quarterback from Cleveland.
Yes, Mayfield. Yeah, so you had Mayfield, and you have had Rosen, and you had Josh Allen.
How's everything going?
You had Sam Darnold,
right
and
now?
then you had Lamar Jackson. And I'd say right now, out of the whole bunch, Lamar Jackson's probably the best, and Mayfield probably the second best. I don't think Cleveland made a bad choice. I don't think they did, considering that most people had them pegged for Darnold. I don't think they made a bad choice. And then you had the Buffalo that jumped up because they were scared Miami might take their guy, and then you had Arizona that jumped up because they were scared Miami might take their guy.
That's the move. That's the chess. This is chess, not checkers.
And then those maybe, you know, Josh Allen, he's been okay. Buffalo's been very good. Josh Rosen, well, we know how that played out, and or is playing out currently, I should say. So you just never. But then after all that, you had Lamar Jackson, who Baltimore didn't they jump into the very end or near the end of the first round?
The last pick. It was the last pick.
He's definitely looked like the most dynamic. Yeah, he's got, you know, people think he's got a little bit of accuracy issues. I believe that.
He's got winning issues. Means he does. Yeah,
he's definitely a winner. I still think that he can definitely play quarterback from the pocket, but man, he's so explosive in other ways. He's just got that added dynamic that the other quarterbacks do not. So he's kind of looking like he was the best. So why not Hurts? I'm not saying that Hurts is the guy. I'm not in love with Hurts. Hurts got beat out by Tua and beat out. He had to leave because he just wasn't nearly as good as Tua. So on a rare occasion, do we get to actually see something play out where we compare two guys and almost complete 100% proof one was better than the other? Well, I've seen it happen now twice in the last few years or last year. Tua and Hurts. It's just 100,000% proven. Tua is absolutely better than Hurts. Yes. People that are saying Tua is trash, let's go after Hurts, did not watch one snap of either of the Hurts games compared to the Tua games, period, end of story. And then another one, and I love this, for so many years, all I heard was about how Mariota was better than Ryan Tannehill, and I never believed it. Really? Because Tannehill went in there and 100,000% proved he was a much better quarterback. Mariota had to say, everybody said, oh, Tannehill just had a running game. Oh, Tannehill just had this, had that. That's funny because Mariota had all those same things. I didn't see him winning any games with it. I didn't see him going to the AFC Championship game. I didn't see him winning playoff games with it. I mean, maybe Mariota did win a playoff game. I don't recall that he did.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I love it when the proof is in the pudding. And one of the rare things you see is Tua is better than Hurts. However, doesn't mean that Hurts won't end up being good, or Fromm even won't end up being good. His stock really dropped. Fromm could be one that's drafted higher than I think people think he will be. I have this feeling that Fromm is going to go higher, that Fromm may even go before Hurts and Eason, although most people think that he won't. I have this feeling he might, but we're going to see. He didn't have a great year last year. He just didn't, and neither did Love, I know, as well, compared to the year before. So lots of fun in this draft. Lots of things to analyze, lots of great players at different positions, just lots of strategy. And then we have every team is drafting kind of in a different, unique situation that isn't necessarily comfortable for them. And their process up to this hasn't been the same as it ever was. Guys that have been doing it 30, 40 years the same way. Now you're telling them, well, now you got to do it this way. No, you don't get to really visit them. You get a Skype interview. You get to see some medicals from their own doctor that you don't trust.
Not the same.
And then you got to watch a bunch of game tape. And guess what? That's what you get right now, besides the combine time you got. So it's everything is so different this year. Who knows what's going to happen? So
different. And I got to tell you, I've been saying this for a little while too. Listen, every pick, you pick the player that you want on your team, but sometimes there's going to be a tie. These guys are really similar on our board. What cornerback are we going to take? What lineman are we going to take? This time of year, I think, and this type of draft, I think that a team like, let's say, the Panthers, maybe like a kid from Clemson and Cal, they're going to go with the kid from Clemson because he's down the road, get him in the facility. That's what I'm saying. TCU goes to a Cowboy instead of going to a Viking.
Yeah, I believe that too. I thought that you'll see. I don't know that you'll see it in
not every pick.
In high, and not definitely not in every pick. You won't necessarily high pick, but when you start getting into these 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, you might see a lot of teams drafting local. And I said that before on Dolphins Brawl a couple weeks ago. You might see a lot of teams drafting those local boys. Dolphins might end up with some Hurricanes,
exactly.
So et cetera, et cetera.
Find out where they're from. When they're home now.
Exactly. Even if where they're from initially, not even necessarily the college they played for. You may see hometown boys going to a lot of teams because they could sneak them in, get some time with them, maybe get to talk to their doctors, maybe even sneak some time. Who knows what the teams have been doing outside of the process? Yeah, exactly.
Zach Baun is a Wisconsin kid through and through. Grew up in like Big Bear, Wisconsin, or Bear Meadows, Wisconsin, something like that. Maybe never left the state other than on a plane with his football team. Goes home. Packers need a D-end. They picked 30th. They also need a wide receiver, but they got Baun, who they just saw and met his mom last week, or I don't know the family situation, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, give me a Hurricane, give me, what do you want to do? Give me a linebacker in the 7th round because he's a Hurricane. You bring him in, Yeah,
exactly. So I think you will. I agree with you on that. Definitely, you'll see some of that throughout this draft a little bit more maybe than we've seen in the past, and I think towards the end, it just makes sense with the situation. But man, I can't wait. It's 5 days. I can't get here quick enough. I'm tired of waiting.
Bring it, man. Bring it. I'll ask you a lightning round of 2 or 3 questions for final thoughts here. Give me the one team that if the Dolphins you could bet your life on will trade with in the entire process. Look, it could be a 5th to 4th, whatever. One team that you know that they're going to hook up with.
I can only give you one. I can only give you one.
This is unplanned, so I want to see.
I'm torn. I'm absolutely torn between 2.
All right, give me.
I'm gonna go the Saints. I'm gonna go the Saints, but my next one down, because I could only pick one, I was gonna go to the Saints. Was Philly? It's gonna be Saints or Philly. I went
49ers.
Oh, really? So they didn't even pop in my mind.
I'll tell you, the way. You're right, because number one, the Saints, they got their number on speed dial from the other deal.
Yeah, teams get comfortable with teams. They build relationships, and that's why you'll see a lot of trades from the same teams many times. 100%. It's about relationships.
And the Eagles and the Dolphins are,
they've traded multiple times over the years, even really with different personnel on both teams in the office, in the coaching staff. For whatever reason, those 2 teams seem to trade. And then lately, it seems like we've had a little bit of something with the Saints. We've been able to trade with them. So that's I just went to the ones that I know the Dolphins are super comfortable with. I think there might be a little bit of connection there with the Giants as well. So perhaps, not that the Giants are big traders, but perhaps we see some of that as too. I didn't even know of any connection with the Niners, so they didn't pop in my head.
The Niners I'm not saying that there is like a paper trail to personnel. I'm saying if I'm bringing a buddy to a poker game of mine and he's a good friend of mine and I'm bringing a good amount of chips and he happens to have half my stack, I'm going to give him a couple of chips because I feel bad for him. The Niners have no picks after the 1st round. They have no 2nd, no 3rd, no 4th.
Really? I didn't even
check them out.
I haven't kept up. And they even don't they have 2 firsts though?
They have 2 firsts from the trade
because they trade
Indianapolis, but
because of the trade for Buckner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, what the Niners could do at 13, they can go corner, they can go receiver, they could trade back, still get a corner or receiver because they're deep. But what really I see the Dolphins doing is I'm just for argument's sake here, and I'll show you. Look at what the Niners have. A first, and then they're taking what? How many picks are they taking off? 124, 5? So the Dolphins should literally, and let me just show you this, and then this is my call. This is the 1 or 2 calls that I will make situationally that you could take to the bank. And if I'm wrong, I don't care. Dolphins get back into the first round at 31, get a 4th guy for a 5-year contract, and let's see, the Niners are desperate. Give him a 56th, give him a 5th, and a 6th. Hypothetically, would you do that?
So you say get him a 5th, so 56, which is our second round pick.
You got a quarterback in the bag, you got an offensive lineman in the bag, and you got, let's say,
so we trade our second for a first, so that's a flop. So I don't consider the second a loss. Correct. Because we got a first. So you're talking about trading a 5th and a 6th? Yeah, because we have 3 5th. I mean, I know it without even looking at it. We have 3 5th round picks and we have 1 6. Yeah, I would make that trade in a second. Now, 2 seconds flat. I wouldn't hesitate.
Well, I don't think the Niners will take this one, but you understand philosophically. But I would even offer the 4th instead of the 5th just to get them some extra picks so they can do it. Yeah,
because then that gives them a 2nd and a 4th, as what you said, they don't have either right now.
I'm just going to try that at it.
I would do that. I mean, we have just 1 4th round pick, right?
Yeah, it's a comp pick. So
let me tell you though, once we get past that 5th, they
accepted that
39.
Deal, by the way, Ron.
Oh, they did
accepted that deal. So instead of you move up, you get 4 first rounders. You still have everything you need. You lose one of the 5ths, still got 2. You lose the 4th.
Yeah, interesting.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to give the Niners a couple more picks. And then, really, if you think about it, you got your safety, you got a guard or center in Ruiz.
I tell you what, though, we go like a mile. Well, no, because we still have a 3rd round, don't we? So we'd have 1 second.
Trade it back.
We'd have 1 second. We'd have 1 3rd. We'd have no 4th and 2 5ths.
Trade the 3rd back.
From the 3rd to the 5th, man, it's a mile. Yeah, we could try and trade back in with 1
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
But who are you targeting with that?
In terms of if I make that deal,
if you make that deal in the 31st.
Here's my dream. Here's my dream. We get out of the first round with 4 first rounders. Whoever the quarterback is, whoever the best blind side protector is. Let's say they go Delpit at the safety at 26. You trade in, you get Cesar Ruiz. Let's say you get Ruiz at the 26th. You trade in, you get Winfield. That's my dream.
So you think Winfield. So you don't think we can get Winfield at 39?
I think he doesn't get past 35.
Really? Okay, it's possible. Yeah, it's close. I think it could depend on does Adams get dealt or not, and take a team away from wanting a safety. It could make the difference, but by then they would know if that's happened or not. So
all could happen draft day. I mean, it could. Listen,
but I mean, like during the draft, it could happen in the middle of the draft. But by the time you got to San Fran's pick at 31, it probably would have happened or would not have happened.
Rip it up.
Yeah,
I mean, you could do a million different things.
Yeah, I've seen Delpit drop on these mocks too, though. I've seen him drop into the 2nd. I'm not saying that's going to happen because I think there's so few really good safeties and there's enough teams that need them. But I've seen it happen on the mocks. Man, I don't know if you could trust. These mocks are getting better and better, but they're not AI.
They're not.
They're just algorithms.
They're not. Remember, Kevin Kolb was once drafted, and people were like, "What?" And it didn't work out, obviously, but people passed on Marino. That worked out. People passed on Mahomes. People passed on this. People passed on Rodgers. Exactly.
Russell Wilson.
And then what? And then somebody traded Brett Favre because he had a hip problem, and he was on Atlanta, and then he became Brett Favre. Yeah. And one last thing, John Elway, 1st overall pick. Peyton Manning, 1st overall pick. They did not win Super Bowls early on.
No, definitely not. Took them both a while, especially.
Took John Elway to the end of his career.
Yeah, it did, to the last 2 years.
Took Peyton how many years? 7, 8?
Yeah, something like that. Took him a while.
We've gone through this. We're growing in the same kind of cut in the tooth fashion with the Dolphins. We've seen it a lot. We've seen great. We've seen horrible. We've seen mediocre. What's another 2 years? Let's get it right this time.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm patient with the Dolphins and what they're starting to do right now. I'm fine to draft Tua and sit him for a full year. He doesn't see the field. I have no problem with that. And just play Fitz, and then probably have to have some Rosen in there because we rarely see Fitz get 2 good seasons. So I kind of have this feeling that we're going to see some Rosen, but that's a topic for another show, maybe after the draft.
100%. And listen, you mentioned earlier on the show, and then we'll say our goodbyes and our sign-offs here. But Cam Newton, why is he not a Charger? Because maybe the logistics.
I think the logistics is the reason.
The reason why he's not a Dolphin is because it's Ryan Fitzpatrick's show and locker room.
And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't think that's where they would have gone even without the COVID situation.
Would have been already happening.
But I think he's not a Charger because of the COVID situation only. And they're trying to get past all that. They want things to open up so they can really get in there and talk with them. However, if they end up drafting a quarterback, then that's a different story. It's kind of like Winston. Winston's a different story. He threw 30 interceptions. I don't know that. But again, you still want to get a guy worked out. You still want your medical staff to look at him, even if he's not necessarily coming from an injury with Winston. You want to be able to work him out. You want to be able to talk with him. You want to be able to do more than just a Skype interview. Mm-hmm. Both those guys are going to land on teams somewhere. Winston might be in a backup role waiting to see if he can start somewhere. And I don't know where. And I think Cam finds some kind of spot. But the fact that it's going to happen after the draft really limits possibly, what could happen. But all right, man. Awesome. This was a lot of fun.
This was a ton of fun. And I really appreciate it, Ron. And listen, tell everybody if they, most know, but where could everybody find your work and what are you up to these days?
Well, I'm always on Twitter isn't it at Ron Canniff _NFL? Or is it just at Ron Canniff NFL? Isn't that sad? I don't even know my own
I don't know my
Twitter
phone
handle.
number. I don't know my phone number. It's like, what am I even calling myself? What are you
tweeting
yourself?
I had to look it up. At Ron Canniff, that's CANNIFF, NFL, is where I am on Twitter. That's where I don't do Facebook stuff. So, and I'm a podcast free agent. I've had my own podcast, Dolphins podcast, off and on over the years, but I kind of like the free agent thing and hop on here and there to podcasts when it suits me.
Freelance is fun, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a pleasure. And listen, I just hope you and yours, you're staying safe down there. You in Florida, I'm up north. But listen, as a Dolphin fan, you and myself, we have friends and family all over the place in the Dolphin community. So, a big hope all is well to all you PhinManiacs out there. And that's where you could find this video. Ron, thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime, sir. So it's been a pleasure, everybody. We're getting close. 5 days left. And we will see you next time on the PhinManiacs Phincast. Thanks, everybody. Take care.